I turned this shipping container into an office in 3 weeks, and I actually moved it before it was done. Guys, this is absolutely amazing. Look, let me tell you, shipping containers are the way. They're the next big thing. Everybody is building something with a shipping container nowadays. Basically, what we did was, for this project, they needed a shipping container house because they had a security house that was already full. So they needed another house. They needed somewhere to move people into. Doing that with a normal building would have taken them forever. We could do it with a shipping container in 3 weeks. The goal of this entire process is to show you guys how we would take what would be considered as something that nobody would look at, take that and turn that into proper living spaces for whatever it is that we want to use it for. For this building, it's going to be used as an office. So with a clear brief and a mandate, we knew basically everything we wanted to do for this shipping container building. And day one basically began with landing the shipping container, and then of course doing everything around the shipping container base to make sure that the entire base itself looked good, because this was being packed on the side of the road. You know, you can see it here by the curbs, so close to the road, and we had to make sure that it kind of like flowed in really nicely. So we had to like basically level it out from the curb straight into the shipping container to create nice flow off the road into the shipping container. This is the position where the shipping container was initially meant to be built. Now, as we're doing anything else with shipping containers, once we've gotten all the preliminaries done, the next stage is to first of all find out what the floor plan of the space is going to be like. That will determine where doors and windows are going to go. And that is the next step in what we do next. We start to mark out all those areas for the doors, for the windows, all around the unit, see all of that first before we actually start to cut anything. Because, you know, shipping containers are actually quite crazy. Once you start to modify them, going back is actually quite difficult. And I think this is like one of the major drawbacks of shipping containers. Once you start modifying it and you start to make errors, then going back is an issue, or it's more of a bigger problem than actually building them out. So once we go into this, before we do anything, we start to mark out all the doors and windows. We want to make sure that everything is aligned with the floor space on the inside. Marking out doors and windows is not just the only thing. You want to make sure once you mark those doors and windows, they are nicely centralized within the spaces and the partitions that they're going to be. So you need to kind of like think ahead. Now, with that process done, we could get the boys up to get the grinding machine running and start cutting the shipping container. Now, when cutting or putting windows, especially windows into a shipping container, some of the considerations that we think about. Look, we're working in a metal box. You cannot remove from the fact that you're working in a metal box. So doing this without considerations for ventilation is actually not the way to go. You want to ensure that everything around placements of doors, windows actually does well to actually ventilate and make the building self-ventilate itself, really. We call this passive cooling design. So basically you can see here that there are windows and doors all around the body of the shipping container itself. So for each room, you will see that there are either 2 windows or 3 windows, or even up to a maximum of 4 windows per room inside the space. Now, once this initial process has been completed with the cuts, we now know what everything looks like. You can see the building in its raw state with just the cutouts for the windows and doors. Then we can now move into reinforcing those doors and windows. You know, because once you're building with a shipping container, we say this over and over again, the box itself is strong, but then once you take stuff out the box doesn't become strong anymore. The box is not strong, you understand? So you have to make sure that you reinforce those cuts. And that's the process that we do now. Now, what do? We take steel tubing and form those into the same shapes of the doors and the windows that we create, and we actually weld these onto the walls of the shipping container inside those frames, because by doing that, you return that integrity back into those areas, number one. Then number two, we also have our surfaces now ready for windows and the fittings themselves, because now the tubing we put into that place creates this nice flat surface to install those fittings once the time comes. Now, one of the biggest parts of I mean, when you're doing shipping container building, especially the fabrication part of it, it's a very, very, very power intensive process, because everything you're going to do within that area is going to require power. You're going to be running power tools, you're going to be running welding tools, you're going to be running cutting tools, you're going to be running all these tools that require power. So in a place like Nigeria, where power is not like a given in a sense, then of course generators, alternative power supply, these are some of the things that of course we use mostly generators to build the shipping container houses. It's very, very capital intensive, but then that's the only way to go. Now, with the cutting and framing of the doors completed, we can now move into putting a roof on top of the shipping container. Now, a lot of people might think that, okay, a shipping container, oh, it's already a box, it already comes with a roof. Can we just not use that roof? No, it's not going to happen like that. Can you imagine using the roof of a shipping container and you have rain dropping on that roof and then you're inside? You're not going to be able to sleep or use that space. So putting a roof on top of a shipping container, apart from that soundproofing that it does to the weather from the top, it also helps to insulate the shipping container, because it will help create a larger surface area on top of the shipping container that will create some shade onto the body of the shipping container. We'll show you later on how this looks once that roof canopy has come over it. But then that shade helps. It creates a larger surface area, increases the surface area of the roof, creating shade. And in the places and the place where we're building in Nigeria, which is very, very hot. One of the first ways that you need to think about when you're building a shipping container is how to insulate that shipping container, and that starts off with the roof. Now, for the roof, as with everything that we're doing on this building, it involves fabrication. So roof structure was basically square pipes or square tubing for the rafters, what you can see, these ones that stand at a triangle. Then of course you have angles for the pole lines that run across. These are the ones that we will bolt the aluminium sheets onto. That's basically the materials that we use to set up the framework for the roof. And of course you now have the aluminium roofing sheet that comes onto it that creates that canopy. Now with the roof canopy done, you can now start to build out the interior of the shipping, because it just becomes a bit much easier to build inside. Once you don't put a roof on it and you're walking inside the shipping container, broski, it is hot. So what we do is that we put that roof up. Now that most of that fabrication, that is like the heavy fabrication, the hot work, the shipping container is complete, then we can now go and start working on the interior. And that starts off with the same process or type of process that we've done on the outside called framing. We frame up the inside of the shipping container. Now on the inside of the build, the first stage in building out the interior of the shipping container is to actually set up this framing system on the inside for everything to hang up. You need to frame up the inside, because if you do not frame up the inside, then there's nothing to hook up the electricals to, the rough-ins, there's nothing that the drywall will be able to hang on to, there's nothing, anything will be able to hang on to. So the first stage is to build out the interior of the shipping container by framing out the interior. And we do this with a simple system, light gauge steel track and stud system that we use. Simple system, track on the bottom, studs spaced out 60 on center, track at the top, and then we run our ceiling profiles across with wall angles to create this really nice grid system across the entire thing, wall surfaces basically. And then this basically gives us everything we need for the next step, which will be the installation of the building. Now, one of the main parts of building a shipping container house is the insulation required to keep the house livable all year round. In our shipping container builds, we utilize rock wool for our insulation. Here is what rock wool looks like. They come in bats. So these bats, we cut them into size and then we place them behind the walls of the noggin. Here is an area here. You can see this part here hasn't been done, and then you can see this areas here that have been done. And this basically stops that thermal insulation from radiating into the shipping container. We've also added a roof on top of this to further insulate the shipping container. So basically you can see how we carry out this process bit by bit. Basically what we do is we take a bit of the insulation, cut them larger than the spaces that they are supposed to go into. You can see an area over here. We cut them larger so that by the time you put them in there, they spread out and then they hold up themselves. And then we go ahead and use some glue to hold them up. Here's what some glue looks like. We use some of this glue here. What do they call this glue again? A faux stick, like a faux stick type of glue. We use that on the walls of the shipping container and then we stick the insulation in. After this process, then we run all the electricals and all the conduits on top of that insulation, and that further helps to hold them in. You can see they're nicely packed in. So that is basically the installation process there. We're carrying this out, doing it little by little. We're going to run the walls of this container build first. And you know, if you're looking to save money, insulating smartly is also a good thing. Now we put a roof on top of this shipping container, and that roof acts as a major insulator because it protects the entire shipping container from direct sunlight. So once there's no direct sunlight touching your shipping container, the amount of insulation you require inside can drastically reduce. Now, because insulation is expensive, this will only work in different scenarios. But because we have a roof, an overhanging roof in this building that overhangs to the front of the building, then what we're doing is that we are limiting the insulation we use in some areas so that we can save on some money. Now, the ceiling itself, you don't need to insulate that because you have a roof covering that. Once you're going to have cement and POP boards line the entire space, it's not going to act as any problem. But areas where the sun might still be touching the front and the top, we really don't need to insulate it, but we're still going to go ahead and do it anyways. Having a roof on top of your shipping container may not be a must because the shipping container already has what is a ceiling or roof already, but then we go the extra step of adding a roof to the shipping container and extending it forward because of how the sun works in this particular location. We had seen that in the early mornings all the way up to 12 o'clock, the sun which rises in the east, which is this way, will cast a shade on the shipping container front here. And that is not a cool thing. We don't want that. So we extended the roof to the front so that it gives us a really lovely shade cover all the way from once the sun rises till the highest part of the day, 12 o'clock. And even past that time, you can see how the sun's shining right now and we are completely underneath shade here. You can see how that roof casts a shade, and that really helps to protect the shipping container. Shipping container walls are actually very cool right now because no direct sunlight is touching it. We are also insulating on the inside to stop thermal radiation. So you can see how the entire process of building a shipping container is. Heat is never a problem because you know you have ways, and there are many ways in which you can stop that. Now you can see to the side over here, we have absolutely no sun. There are trees on this side of the build which cast some dappled shade onto the shipping container, but then our roof also extends outwards a bit. Now it's about, what time is it now? It's almost 2 o'clock. So 2 o'clock sun really starts to affect the shipping container on the back. You can see it. You can see our roof doesn't extend out too much. We don't want that. It's going to look a bit of a mess. So what we have there is that we are going to clad all the way 3 sides. We are not going to clad the back, but then the sun at this time is not crazy. We're also going to be using some cement boards to clad the inside. All of these little aspects helps to increase or help to better the temperature or regulate the temperature inside the shipping container itself. These little things that we do go a long way at the end of the day to keep the shipping container cool. So looking at it now, like I said, during the day, see 2 o'clock sun is affecting the shipping container on the back. But then we're going to have insulation, we're going to have cladding on the inside with cement board, and all of these help to keep the shipping container cool. So you can see how we are taking little aspects of each aspect of the build, looking at its orientation to the sun and how the sun will affect the container and building it accordingly. That is how you build shipping container houses. Now, if this house were a few meters down that way and completely under the tree, I would not need a roof and I would not need insulation. So you can see how crazy that is. Without the roof and insulation, you've cut down maybe another 25% to 30% of your budget. And that is really cool. So knowing where to build your shipping container house, knowing how the weather and the elements affect it will eventually affect how your shipping container is built, the level of specification of materials that you would require, and eventually how much it will cost you. Have you started? Are you recording? Don't show my legs, oh. Dude, you showed my legs, don't show my leg. I wear slippers on side. Bro, now, one of the craziest questions, or one of the biggest questions that I think everybody has, apart from the price question when it comes to building a shipping container house, I think is the heat question, especially where we are in Nigeria. It's extremely hot. If I can take the camera right now, let me show you the videographer. Take a look at him. You see, he is sweating. He is sweating up. So basically, one of the questions that people ask about, apart from the price question, is the heat question. Look at where we are. It's extremely hot in Nigeria. It's very humid. And we'll run you through a few things that we do when we are building a shipping container house to keep it as cool as possible. Now, everything that goes onto the shipping container, especially on the body, on the roof, and on the inside, has some level of insulation to it. Apart from the insulation, which is the insulation material we put into it, every material that goes into this has some insulation properties. Let's run you through everything we've been doing so far on how we build the shipping container and also keep it as cool as possible and insulated. Now, basically starting from the inside, when you want to keep your shipping container cool, or the best ways to keep your shipping container cool will be to insulate it. Everything we do, like I said about in this shipping container build, adds a level of insulation. This right here is the insulation material. We've spoken about this. This is rock wool, and rock wool basically stops that thermal radiation through the container walls into the space that you're going to create for the shipping container. Man, I don't understand though. I have to go and check my bill that I sent to that woman again, because all of these things were part of what we had ordered from the supplier. So basically, where your shipping container house is located will determine how you will build it. For what we're doing right here, we're using cement boards. Cement boards have the same properties of brick in a type of way, because these are like compacted cement fibers that have been compacted into a board, and these help keep the container cool. We can also treat these like a normal wall and screed it and paint it and give the building the look of a typical structure or normal house. Now, another aspect of this that we also spoke about is the roof. The roof itself keeps direct sunlight from touching the building itself, and by putting a roof on your shipping container, you can further help to insulate the shipping container, keeping it usable all year round. You see, now that we've started the process of cladding the interior of the shipping container, we've shown you how it looks on the outside. On the inside of the shipping container, we have the same thing. On the inside, there is no choice, because you really want to make the inside look good. So you really need to clad your shipping container. There's no choice on that matter on the inside. And of course, you need a space that's going to hold up all your roughings and everything that's going to be behind the walls that will make this place work properly. So when it comes to insulation also, like I said, we put in the roof. Now we are putting in ceiling boards and drywall gypsum that would help the space have all our light fittings on those, but it also helps to insulate the shipping container. Now, here's the material that we use for both the interior and the exterior of the shipping container. And these are the materials that we think, or of course that we know, add those insulating properties to the shipping container themselves. This one right here, the thinner one, of course, comes in various sizes. This also comes in various thicknesses. This is cement board. You can see it looks more like stone, whilst this one looks more like processed. You can see that cross section there of the compressed gypsum powder that has been used to create this. This right here we use for the ceilings, and right here basically this is the compressed cement board, and you can see that cross section there. Now this less durable, this more durable. This can also be used in more areas. We use this for the ceilings and for the partitions. We use these for the exterior walls, interior walls, wet areas, cladding. It has quite a lot of uses, cement board. Now, ACP or cement boards for cladding. Each type of cladding material has a different way you can utilize it. They both go on in the same kind of way, but they require two different types of skills for putting up cladding on the exterior of any type of building. Cement boards are used for cladding on the exterior. ACP, that's aluminum composite panels, are used for cladding on the exterior. Now, what are the main differences between cement boards and ACP? ACP is a finished material. Basically this, you need a pro to install this for you. You bring this in, you bend them into shape or into the required spaces that you want to put them. You install them, you leave them, and that's it. But with cement boards, you can install those, you can bend them or fit them into different areas. But then what you still need to do is that you still need to finish the cement board. It's a semi-finished product, not a finished product like ACP. You still need to finish those. Soon, I know they use some. Papa, I write that there live. The next one is oh my God. I swear, that shit was funny, man. So we have gum cement on the inside and tiles. These are the tile boxes that we're going to be using for the space. These are 60 by 60 matte tiles. Yeah. Body, cement board, yeah. But there should be no way water is getting in anyway, because we're going to...
workers like working with their yash out. Look at that guy over there. Guy's yash. And they're walking and their yash should be outside. What's wrong with them? Guys, the building is moving. It's another day on site. Sunny day. We are starting all the board treatments on the shipping container. Board treatment basically means trying to join up all those little seams in between those cement board panels that we put up. The process basically involves a mixture of cement, POP, paint, and gum. We put that into a bit of a mixture, and then we apply that directly, as you can see going on back there. Let's get closer, see what's going on. Get a shot of that guy's yash. And also Samson's stomach. Get a shot of Samson's stomach. That's Agbara Belede. And then that one walking with his yash out. Now me tell us when you snap up. Bro, pull your chocolate up. What's wrong with you? I hear your parlor. What's wrong with you? I am walking with your yash out, and girls are passing here, seeing your yash. Kilo share, board treatments currently going on right now, and you can see how that entire process works out. You can see that we don't have any seams anymore on the boards. You can see where those seams are over there, and little by little, gradually, we're trying to close them up. Let me show you. You can see right here, that's a seam right there that has been partially closed off, and then this is one that has been fully closed off. You can see how it makes it look like you have one complete panel over here, but then the seams are still there. We use some joint tape on the seam, and then we apply the mixture I told you about. So that's the process there. You can see right here, let's see, you can see that mixture that we spoke about here. Look, that's the cement. So they use this, some of this, some black cement, and some waterproof cement for the walls. All of this mixed into that mixture over there and applied directly onto the exterior. The interior is a different type of material. You can see that material here. It's POP paint, more POP paint, POP cement, and glue, top bond. Here. These are the materials that are utilized for the screening, both on the inside and on the outside. So you can see that whole process going on right now, everything moving simultaneously. We're trying to finish up as quickly as possible. We also have our electricians in doing some minor adjustments to our electricals, making sure that everything is in the right places. So yeah. Is it the person inside to outside caring for the person outside to inside? The person from inside has to have a clear view of what's going on outside. The person on the outside has to have an obscure view. So basically this job or doing this, shipping container, I've had to, or learning how to build or manage people is something that I've had to, learn as I go, because I have zero experience in construction, zero experience in managing people, zero experience in anything really. I just kind of like threw myself into the deep end of this. So basically doing or learning how to build a shipping container space or being a contractor, there are just some things that you need to learn. Many times on site, I'm going crazy, man. Like, this is even a good day. I'm talking about some of the things that I've seen in my time on this job, doing it for about 5 years. Some of the things I've seen, my God, guys, you're not even going to believe it. But an example is today, me giving a glass guy glass work to do, and he's cocking it up. Sense that a glass guy should know what he should be doing. A glass guy should know that reflective glass should face the outside. Do you understand? But these are simple things that, look, elementary things, but you have to manage them, and it has to be part of what you do every day on a work site like this, because if you don't, the responsibility goes to you. So you can see everything was going really nice and well with
this build. I mean, the entire thing came together pretty quickly within about 3 weeks. We're almost towards the completion. We had put up all the boards, we had done all the drywalling on the inside, we had done the insulation, we had done all the glass work, which was the last thing that we're doing now, done all the cladding, which was actually quite a lot of work, all of that work, quite a lot. And then boom, they come and go, this stuff we don't want to hear anymore. That was exactly what happened on this project. Basically, there was like a litigation issue that actually had been going on behind the scenes, and we didn't know what to do. We were just going to continue building the house, continue doing what we were doing. And then they just come one day and go, guys, you're gonna have to move the entire shipping container. Well, I didn't make it my problem, I made it their problem. But then the whole idea about it is that the entire thing, the entire building, the way you see it right now, was moved from where it is, further down the road from, within the same estate, but the entire thing was moved. And resuming on the Monday or the day after when the thing was moved, it was even a shock for me because I already told them what they were supposed to do, hook it here, blah, blah, blah. But then leaving it to somebody else to do completely without having to supervise it, that was the part that was really, really scary for us. Once they did it and they dropped it, we now went and did like a little bit of an inspection, and absolutely nothing had gone wrong with that shipping container. Absolutely nothing. The entire thing was moved, and we already gone ahead and built ourselves another foundation. It was moved there, placed there, and the exact same thing that was done in that area where we cemented the base, the whole thing was done, ready to use, and the entire building came in, landed straight up. And then the next step was basically to just start to finish up the unit from where we left off, which was to paint the unit, do the floors on the inside. Now, if we had gone ahead and done some of those things, it might have been a bit of a problem, because if we had done some of those things, it might have been a bit of an issue. Like tiles now, tiles would have been an issue to move. If we were going to move the building with tiles in it, that would have been a bit of a problem. But then, because we hadn't done the tiles, we hadn't done the painting, there was not much of a, maybe we had a little crack on the drywall somewhere, but then these things are like elementary, or whatever. These are things that you see when you're moving something that big. But then the entire thing came together so nicely. I was, like I said, mind blown. Now, we've done container moving before. I've built container houses and moved them. But like I said, I did it myself. I didn't wait for someone to do it. I did it myself. So because I did it myself, I can supervise the entire thing. We do this really well. But then to build it the way we did it, with the roof, with the extension, with the little cladding thing on the side, to create that little facade, and then that entire thing moved like that, absolutely crazy. So now with the build completely done and all of that headache out of the way, the final part of it now is to, of course, finish out the building, finish it out, and you can see that transformation. People were so shocked within the estate. They didn't even know what the hell was going on. They were like, wasn't this building in front of the gate? What's it doing here? When did they move it here? And of course, that gave us some visibility also in terms of the fact that people were really, really amazed by what we did with that shipping container, with that single shipping container. So that shipping container now, of course, being the fact that, we set it up the way we did, single 40-foot container, split up into 3 spaces. Imagine doing that for like a house. Those 3 spaces could be a bedroom, living room, and a bathroom or kitchen, or 2 bedrooms and an open plan living space. Absolutely amazing. Means that you can literally move these things. Not meaning that you're going to move them every single day. It just means that if the need arises, then you can move your shipping container. Look, let me tell you guys, bro, container house and container building is not cheap. You understand? There's always going to be the ups and the downs. There's always going to be something that goes wrong. Its construction has to come together well. I'm glad this one did. Now, you now basically understand what I mean by shipping container builds are really cool. Think about it. Imagine you lease the land and they didn't want you there anymore, or your lease was ended and you had to move your building. These are the cool things you can do with a single shipping container. Even with multiple shipping containers, if you build them to be dismantled, then at the end of the day, you can literally dismantle that building, take it to another location, and then go and reassemble it. Single shipping containers work the best with this because the entire thing is still one block. All you've done is put doors, windows into the space. So once you're done building, or once you're not required at that location anymore, you want it to move, you just plump your shipping container, boom, put it on a truck, and then move it, and then go connect it in a different location. Now, there's going to be some drawbacks to this. There's always going to be some pros and cons. Of course, you're keeping your investment. That is the biggest part of it. Your investment remains largely intact. If you build this with any other type of construction, then you would have to lose that investment because it has to be demolished. But shipping containers can be moved from location to location. So the idea about it is that this gives you some flexibility when you're leasing land, or when you don't own the land, or when you don't own the space where you're building. And that is what this entire project itself has proved. So if you guys love this video, you loved everything we showed you guys, comment, like the video, subscribe. You understand what I'm saying? Subscribe.